Are laws protecting our environment just right, or do we need to roll them back or add some more? Please provide a short answer.
Oh, good one. Wow.
Yes.
Are the laws protecting our rights just enough?
I think Maine's history, its legacy, is its natural environment. So I could give you a politician's speech about why that's important, and I'll decline. I want to give you something to think about in terms of our natural resources so you can make some informed decisions as voters moving forward. One issue that concerns me significantly is the ownership of groundwater. Nestle's has punched a straw into this state and sucking out what I consider to be our collective right, our collective water. But Maine is unique in how it views water legally. As governor, I will work to change that so that we have a common public interest in a natural resource that I call water. And that is my concern moving forward. There are many others. I'm worried about ocean acidification. I'm worried about our timber practices. I'm worried about the fact I'm all done.
I think there's been some significant rollback in the last 8 years on our environmental protection, and we need to bring those back and go forward. I agree 100% with Mark that our public water needs to be a public trust, and we can't just give it away to corporations. But I also think we're in a really wonderfully unique time in which it used to be, for you guys, your time, it used to be the economy and the environment were at odds with each other. We had to do one or the other. Now we have just the opposite thing has happened. Now, our protection of the environment and going to being fossil fuel by 2030 is good for our economy. We can be the leaders in this. We can have technology that is clean, renewable, and then we can be the energy exporter for all of New England. So we have a real opportunity, and I'll just tell a quick story. My sister works for a company that is working with the mycelium under the mushrooms and turning that into a replacement for styrofoam. So that instead of having a half-life of 1,000,000 years, it's gonna, you put it in your compost when you get it. So Dell Computer, Crate and Barrel, and she is working to make buoys out of it that will fix ocean acidification and be a big industry for Maine, I think.
So I do not think that we are doing enough to protect our environment and take advantage of the opportunity that is right in front of us. And I had a front row seat almost 8 years ago when the governor was elected in 2010. The House and the Senate was swept in as Republicans, and the governor's LD1, which is the priority bill of the governor, was to roll back environmental protections. And thank goodness we had a well-coordinated group of advocacy groups outside of the State House to stop that. We have to take advantage of the opportunities that are right in front of us. We have to have a governor that believes in science, believes that Maine can be a leader in this area again, believes that we can be, and some of those examples are chairing the Climate Alliance, joining the other states around the country. When Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, we're still going to meet those standards. And the reason we're going to meet them is because our economy depends on it. If we want to grow good jobs in our state, this is a prime opportunity for our state. So we need a leader in our state that believes in climate change and global warming and believes in the opportunity of a renewable sector. I'll lead on that on day one.
Realizing I'm under the clock, I will agree with the Marks and Betsy on that, not only with respect to enforcement, but also with respect to the fact that we really need a plan. I've spent the majority of my professional career working in environmental and clean energy issues. I was recognized by President Obama as one of 12 veterans he recognized in the country for my work on climate change and energy security. And if we need one thing first and foremost to start in the state of Maine, it is an actual plan. Governor LePage got rid of the state planning office, which had a dramatic effect on so many things throughout the state. But when we're talking about climate change, we really do not have a resiliency plan, a mitigation plan, an emergency management plan with superstorms taking place throughout the world right now. And I agree with Mark with respect to the job opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. And we're really at the point in our history right now where the environmental choices or the business choices, they don't need to be made, and they're not as tough as they used to be, because it does make sense economically to do the right thing for the environment. Thank you.
Isn't it great to have a panel of politicians that actually believe in science? Whoa! What an amazing thought! So one of the first things that we need to talk about is the Land for Maine's Future Fund, because that has been left on the chopping block, even though we passed it with 70%. I agree about groundwater. We also need to look at water rights writ large, and making. I grew up on the Androscoggin River, which is why we have the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act, right? And we need to make sure that we're protecting that, and that means that we need the Penobscot to be clean. The Native Americans are not just fighting for their water rights and sustenance fishing, they're also fighting for our water rights. I also think we need to be looking at weatherization as a means to reduce our carbon output, as well as the costs. Let's stop playing the grasshopper and start playing the ants. We're already seeing the gas prices tick up. Do you think the Iran deal is not going to drive up our prices? Right. So we need to make sure that we are weatherizing so that we're getting less energy consumption. Also, we're 350 parts per million was a problem. We're now up above 400 parts per million. So if we don't deal with this and do our part, the next generation won't have a planet.
It reminds me of what French President Macron just said recently. There is no planet B, right? We need leaders in Augusta and a governor in Augusta who believes that global warming is real. We have some pretty good laws in the books, going back to the 70s when there were bipartisan agreements on what we should do to protect the air and water and soil of our state. I've had the occasion to be on the front lines of enforcement of our environmental laws. Most recently, going after the Trump administration, going after Volkswagen of America, going after Scott Pruitt for violating the CAFE standards, for rolling back the ozone standards, the methane and mercury standards. So I believe in enforcing the laws we have first and foremost. I also believe that we've got to look at ocean acidification. I've read the report that was done. We've got to put that to work and make sure that municipalities and local governments all know what to expect from global warming. The lobster fishery industry. We've got to prepare for the future, and you can be part of that. So, and I'm also the only one here that can file comments against offshore drilling for oil and gas, unlike our current government. I believe that's wrong for the state of Maine.
I was mayor of the city of Biddeford for 3 terms. During that time, I realized there's a lot of smokestacks in Biddeford, and was very concerned about the toxic compounds that were being released. And during that first period that I was there, I pulled all the businesses that had smokestacks. Actually, there were 21 businesses, and they showed up with all their attorneys. And we sat down and talked about how do we change the processing, how do we change the filtering. And as a mayor, we pulled these people together, and at that time, developed the strongest air toxic ordinance in the state of Maine. We were concerned on what kind of impact it had to the river, and the land, and the farmers, and so forth and so on. So during that time, we had such a strong regulation and the enforcement of what was happening that EPA out of Boston actually sponsored a program that lasted a year asking DEP in the state to pull people together with stacks throughout the state and look at how we could minimize or improve what is being emitted. So that's how passionate I am. I see something, I go after it. Thank you.